Wake up, wake up. It is Friday, January the 10th. Let's talk some Niner football right here.
Hey, welcome indeed. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger here on Wake Up. We're brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. We thank so much to Sam's for sponsoring us all season long, but the season is over and the off season is here. Larry, every single journey begins with the first step, and that's what we're talking about here. We're starting with the focus of this show being the steps that the 49ers need to take to return to the playoffs next year. The very first thing that the 49ers need to do to turn around 2025. And I'm interested in what you think of it. I got to tell you, I really believe that the first step has already been taken. I was very happy to hear what came out of that press conference the other day. And if you ask me, the very first thing that the 49ers needed to do to make sure that 2025 arrived correctly was to admit they got a problem. You know, the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. Well, the 49ers told themselves the truth. Our defensive coordinator didn't cut the mustard. Our special teams was atrocious. And we need a new set of eyes on this offense to help Kyle through a season where it feels like the NFL is onto him, onto his trends. And all three things have already been addressed. So just being aware of who you are, some self-awareness for a team that has been labeled, very ego-driven, doesn't want to change its ways, stubborn to a fault. I think the 49ers are already underway on the best possible circumstances because they've admitted the way we've been doing things needs to change a little. And to me, that is the very important first step of this offseason, and they've already taken it.
I'll go with, kind of like embracing the draft plan of trading back. There's always, you watch a game last night, you watch Abdul, what's his name? Abdul Walker or whatever his name is for Penn State. It was just amazing. He was everywhere. Mason Graham from Michigan, Abdul Carter. A lot of people today, get Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter's going top 10. Mason Graham's probably going top 10. And the Niners are going to pick 11 overall. And I just think that, before they even get anything rolling, before they start falling in love with any of these guys at the top of the draft, they ought to take a real hard look at their situation and say, you know what, we can't fill our needs in free agency. We're going to have to fill them in the draft, and we can't fill them if we don't trade back. So I would say that the most important thing for the 49ers is to all agree early in the process that they're not going to take somebody in the top 15, that they're going to trade out of that spot, trade back into the 20s, 30s, or 40s, and gain a lot more second, third, fourth round picks in this draft and turn around and fill your needs. But they're not one player away, and I think they need to resist the urge to, sell out for one Abdul Carter.
I would agree with that. I think trading back is the smart thing to do. Did you see, speaking of coming out of some Orange Bowl stats last night, Notre Dame wins that game. Penn State's wide receivers last night, 0 catches, 0 yards. Tyler Warren, their tight end, is ready to be a 49er if there is ever a person coming out of college. Come be a tight end for the 49ers. You're not going to get much wide receiver help. I mean, that's who he was last night. So that kind of made me giggle thinking he's ready to join the 49ers right now. He plays for a team that has wide receivers who can't get the job done, and he still gets the job done.
There were a couple good tight ends in last night's game. I mean, Mitchell Evans, the Notre Dame tight end, is a hell of a player too. There's no question, though, that Warren is going to be a first round pick. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, don't fall in love with, Tyler Warren thinking you're going to take him with the 12th pick in the draft. When you really need to do a lot better drafting than that. That's a layup. That's a layup. Like the Bosa one was a layup. But what I'm saying is you're so thin relative to the other contenders that you can't take that first round layup. You need to trade back and take a bunch of tough jumpers and make them.
Well, and Larry, I think this is part of that self-awareness that I opened the segment with, saying that, you need to admit your situation and who you are. And I think from a coaching standpoint, they've done that. Now they need to do it from a roster standpoint. And knowing the money that they're going to be splashing around their quarterback and some other returning players, they are going to have to fill the back end of this roster with young players on rookie deals. So trading back, having a 12 to 15 man draft class is, I think, the recipe that they need. Beyond that, they got to be ready to pounce at free agency. Probably not too much. And these are going to have to be very targeted, strategic choices that the 49ers make. The 2025 league year and free agency signing period begins on March 12th at 4:00 Eastern. And there should be a small handful of players that the 49ers are, basically standing on the doorstep saying, you're, our first choice. We want to bring you in and then build this team around you. And I've got a couple of names and a few players, but no matter what they do, they got to get lucky. And there is an element of luck to all this. Player evaluation, even free agent evaluation, it's not an exact science. It's all an inexact science. And they're just going to have to hit on some of these freaking picks that they've missed on. You can think you're drafting the right player. I don't think many NFL teams ever ran up to the podium with the name on the card thinking, this probably isn't going to work out. Everybody goes up there as optimistically, and this is a guy that we're going to build around, and it rarely happens. So they do need to come out of this draft with one or two guys who is a bona fide, no doubt, somebody is going to be special for the 49ers. They need that. And then once everyone has been identified, Larry, get them signed, get them in, and get them to training camp. There's controllables and there's uncontrollables. Getting your players on the field for their training camps, mandatory, volunteer, rookie, veteran. That's where an awful lot of this offseason's discontent and the bad vibes of the 49ers, I think, started. So get everyone signed and in, and don't play this slow play extension negotiation contract. There should be no universe that exists where George Kittle has to hold out to get a new deal. You know what I mean? Like, you're going forward with George Kittle. Give him the money he wants. Agree to that. Get him there. And I just hope that the 49ers do that. I hope that they stop slow playing extension.
They need to stop doing that. They need to stop giving everybody all the money they want. They gave Ayuk all the money he wanted. They gave CMC all the money he wanted. They gave Trent all the money he wanted. I mean, part of the reason they're in this cap problem is that they've kind of overpaid in some areas. They've paid way, way, way too much for a fullback. That's not really giving them a whole lot. So I kind of feel like they need to get some of their spending in order. Obviously, you're going to sign Kittle, but I mean, and Kittle has stated he wants to be a Niner for life. But I think they need to. I think the 49ers need to be more like Kansas City. Kansas City doesn't sit there and go, oh, Tyreek's got to have this. They're like, goodbye, Tyreek. They say goodbye to guys. And I mean, they started doing it a couple years ago. The Niners should have been on the other end of that deal. Instead, they're trading a second-round pick for D Ford, who was totally banged up. His knee was shot at that point. He got one good season out of him, and then they, had to give away a second-round pick. And I'm sure whatever Kansas City turned that into is probably still on the roster. So they need to draw a hard line on who they're going to pay and who they're not going to pay, bite the bullet, and be willing to round out their roster with rookies and undrafted guys. And yeah, guess what? You're going to have to coach. You're going to have to coach these guys up. You're not going to have a bunch of guys who are going to be ready-made, know the scheme, know everything, and you just game plan every week. you're going to actually have to fucking coach these guys. So if Shanahan and this group of coaches is not all about coaching, this isn't the right team for them, because they need to be younger and cheaper. And to be that way, you're going to have to say goodbye to some vets. You're going to have to say hello to some young guys. And then you're going to have to coach those young guys up so that they play like vets. And it's really as simple as that. And if they can't do that, like, their coaching is going to be called into question here, because they have to find 15 to 20 roster spots from young players.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've called their own coaching into question. So I think that they know that. My question is, Larry, are you going to feel this way when they say goodbye to Dre Greenlaw? I mean, you and I both really like Dre Greenlaw.
No, I mean, I'm not saying goodbye to Dre Greenlaw.
I think it is. I think just with injury past,
I think you sign this guy. This is the guy you sign. This is the guy you sign. Lynch said, hey, we think, we talked to him. He's talked to us. He wants to be here. We want him here. This is the guy you extend for. I mean, yeah, you can't extend for everybody. You're going to have to say goodbye to probably Aaron Banks and maybe Talanoa Fonga and maybe 5 or 6 other key veterans, including Mooney Ward and others. But Greenlaw is the one guy that I would sign, because I think he's a high character guy. I think he's a tone setter. He's a culture player.
Look, I agree
lost
with you.
So much of your core that you're going to have somebody kind of show all these new players what the existing culture is. And if you have that player there, I think that helps you.
I agree with you, man. But you're talking about tough choices. That's one of them. Dre Greenlaw was and
I'm choosing to keep.
He was an oft-injured player before he tore his Achilles, and he comes back and, another injury pops up. Do you think he's going to be 12, 13 games ever? I don't know. I'm a little worried. I love the guy, love the player. I would love him back. But, if you're talking about an off season of tough choices, that's about as tough choices as they can make. And it might be one that they need to make.
I don't know about this one, because, I don't know if I agree with Mayoko on this. I just saw Mayoko do a whole video last night on YouTube saying that he doesn't think there's going to be much of a market for Greenlaw. And I kind of disagree. I think there's going to be kind of a burgeoning market, but I still think I would try to sign him. I'm going to try to sign him. If he gets a monster 4-year offer somewhere, you're not going to be able to sign him. But, Mayoko seemed to think that he didn't think that there would be a significant offer out there. So we'll see.
I mean, I'm thinking the two teams that would be most interested right off the rip would be coaches who are familiar with him, right? I mean, you would think that D'Amico Ryans in Houston and Mike McDaniels in Miami might be the most interested. Is this the Mayoko clip? Go ahead.
What I think is going to happen is I think he's going to be back, because I don't think unless you have really close ties to Dre Greenlaw and you see him and you know him and you like him, I don't know that any team would say, oh, let's go get him. Let's go pay him a lot of money, because the guy had the Achilles injury throughout the 2023 season. He ruptures it in the Super Bowl. And then when he came back, he clearly wasn't right and could only play one half of one game. And so I would think that the market for Dre Greenlaw is going to be the 49ers, who want him back, but also are quite cognizant of his physical condition. So I can't imagine they're going to pay him top dollar in a multi-year contract. And then you look around the league, what teams would want him? Well, 4 days ago, I would have said maybe the Tennessee Titans because of Rand Carthon. Well, guess what? That general manager is now out of a job. And so the other teams would be, I bet D'Amico would like him, but don't they already have Aziz Al-Shire there? And then the Washington Commanders with Adam Peters. So I just don't know that there's going to be a huge market for Dre Greenlaw, because, how much time did we spend this season talking about injuries? And the last thing teams want would be to go out and sign a free agent who has a history of injuries. And, it's one of those, you get, you're asking for it. If you're going out and getting a guy, who has that kind of history of injury. So my guess would be that Dre Greenlaw comes back to the 49ers on probably a 1-year kind of prove-it deal to try to get his body right and then try to take another bite at the apple in free agency next year.
No, I mean, I think that makes an awful lot of sense.
I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong. So wait a second. The only people that could potentially see the value in Dre Greenlaw are former Niners. These games are all on television.
I know, but
everybody knows Dre Greenlaw. Okay, that's totally wishful thinking.
What I think he's talking about is, the fact that the guys who have worked with Dre in the past know him, know how personally committed he is to keeping his body in tune, know the kind of guy that shows up in the meeting, not just on game day. I don't hear him disparaging Dre Greenlaw, but the injury concerns have to be real. And the injury concerns, I do think, prevent him from flirting with any top shelf liquor dollar amount in free agency. And that's a bargain that the 49ers need to be able to enjoy too. You know what I mean? Like, if the Niners are bringing Dre Greenlaw back and there isn't much of a market for him, it should be a very team-friendly deal.
I think it's wishful thinking. I really do. I mean, you're banking that everybody doesn't see what you see. It's like, yeah, the guy's been super hurt, but you want him back. Yeah, the guy's been involved in an awful lot of collisions, but you want him back. Well, guess what? The Eagles saw how good he was. The Chiefs, you don't think Patrick Mahomes, who was literally reacting on Super Bowl Sunday to Dre Greenlaw and only Dre Greenlaw, going, man, we need to ratchet up our intensity. You don't think that everybody else saw the intensity that Greenlaw played with? I think it's wishful thinking. We'll find out in time. I hope Mayoko's right. I hope there is no market for him. I hope he comes back to the Niners on a very friendly 1-year prove-it deal, as Maddie says. I doubt that will be the case.
We will see. We will see. Free agents that the 49ers need to take a look at. Larry, I got a very short list because, the list can go as long as we want it to. Sure. For the sake of everyone watching, I'm going to keep it nice and short here. By the way, welcome everyone to Wake Up. Like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button right now. Get the get the YouTube algorithm to wrap its arms around us and love us very, very much. Let's start with what I think a position that they do need to address in free agency is wide receiver, because, as I've said and has been proven basically once again, Kyle hates young wide receivers. Kyle hates unproven wide receivers. Kyle does not like developing wide receivers. I think that T. Higgins is probably going to be a hard price to fit in. Everybody's going to be looking to give him top dollar. He's the best on the market. I think they got to take advantage of, a depressed asset a little bit, who they think that they can get a good deal for. And that brings me to Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin would be a good 49er. The ankle injury, his dislocated ankle, took his season away from him. And that might be something that makes him affordable for the 49ers. I would look at Chris Godwin. I would also take a look at Khalil Mack as an edge rusher. That one last Von Miller contract that Miller sort of put himself in position to get. I think that Khalil Mack could get it. He had one of his better years in his recent handful of years this year, like a 3-year, $45, $58 million level contract might be able to get you a player like Khalil Mack, who, again, he's a little older, sure, but paired opposite of Nick Bosa, I'd like to see what that actually looks like. I think that defensive end and wide receiver need proven assets, not just NFL draft picks invested in them. And those are the first two names that kind of came to mind. I'd like to see Chris Godwin brought in at wideout, Khalil Mack maybe as edge. What do you think?
Well, good football players for sure. I mean, it's just a matter of cost, right? I love the Godwin idea just because Godwin is got such great ball skills and he's such a proven wide receiver. My only thing on Godwin is, if you bring in a guy like Godwin and you do have Debo still there and you still do have Ayuk coming back and you have Ricky Pearsall, you could get into a situation where, there's some egos there, but because Godwin's he's a true starter in the league, and it's like, would he start if you had a healthy Debo and somebody's not starting, and it'll probably be Debo, and then I don't know what the reaction would be, but who knows? There's also Juwan Jennings there, who's looking for a 1,000-yard season since he didn't get it this year. But those are good names. I think that might be a little too rich. I think that's kind of the rich aisle. I think the Niners' money is going to be spent on Brock and Greenlaw and some like 3 or 4 free agents, but I think kind of lower level. So, give you an example. You have Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's a starter and a borderline star. I don't know if they can get that good of a receiver. I'm targeting just 3 guys beneath that who are just, one of the, not to get 3, but to get one of these 3. Tutu Atwell, Burner, who was the other guys I was thinking of? McCole Hardman, who's been in Kansas City on a couple of different stints. Really good gadget, red zone. He's so good in the red zone with all these gadget plays, and he also can run really well. And the other guy that I definitely would sign is Rondale Moore, who I kind of see as a perfect Niner. And I know I've talked to Shanahan about Rondale Moore in the past when I had a chance to interview him on the radio, and he really likes Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore ran 4.29 at Purdue and is kind of a running back, receiver, jack of all trades, master of none, return guy. He's a little bit of everything, but he's very fast. I would love to get like maybe Rondale for the minimum because he's coming off a major injury, and one of those other 2. A couple other free agents I'll throw out there.
Here's the thing,
Rondale Moore. Good fits.
Look, I mean, I won't hold his Purdue background against him. He's got an electric player. He's tiny, man. He is 5'7", and they're probably lying about 5'7". He's probably 5'6". So
I'm not worried that much about the height, though. I think there's good open field running ability. I like him as a running back or a wide receiver, as kind of a jack of all trades guy. And I think you can get him for virtually nothing.
Well, so you got a jack of all trades guy in Debo. And then you want to add,
but I don't know. See, I don't know if jack of all trades. See, I don't know if Debo can do it anymore. So that's kind of why I want to have a jack of all trades guy. In fact, I get the sense that the Niners won't cut Debo, but that Debo's available. And I would say that if you made me guess, my guess is Debo goes for a 4th or a 5th round pick on draft day in a trade. That would be my guess because they are pretty hugged up against the cap. And I just think that, I don't know. I mean, there's going to be tough decisions made, but I could see that being one of them. The way they answered the questions yesterday, to me, sounded an awful lot like, come make us an offer. That's what it sounded like to me. So I'll give you 2 other.
The other thing that I know people are trying to figure out, what do they mean there? Dude, Javon Hargrave is never playing for the San Francisco 49ers again. Okay. I know that we're going to let Javon go, but we'd be interested in bringing him back. No, they're not. That's bullshit. They're not bringing Javon Hargrave back.
Well, I mean, he makes $19 million.
Right.
They don't want him at 19
They want him back at a song. I think that they were thoroughly unimpressed with what they got out of him.
If they could get him, I think they really like him actually, but I think it's $7 to $8 million, and I think he's going to get $9 or $10 million from somebody. Right. So I don't think he's coming back. The 2 names though that I think are good fits would be interesting. One is Tommy Tremble, who is the Carolina Panthers. Niners take a lot of players away from Carolina. He's a free agent. He's a former Notre Dame tight end, Tommy Tremble. The Niners really badly need another real tight end. No more of these, I mean, it's okay to have prospect tight ends, but it didn't work out for a lot of them. You're going to bring Mason Pline back next year, and you're going to have Kittle. So those are 2. So you probably need 2 more. So you need 1 in the draft and maybe 1 in free agency. And I like this kid, Tommy Tremble. I really do. I think he's a jack of all trades guy, another guy who can do a bunch of different things. He's a dogged blocker. He wants to block. He's not the most overpowering blocker, but he tries really hard as a blocker. He's a really good, underrated receiver. I really like Tommy Tremble quite a bit, the former Notre Dame tight end. And then the other free agent that I think makes a lot of sense, and this is a name that you guys are going to go, what? I've never heard of that guy. But Milton Williams is a defensive lineman who the Eagles drafted a few years ago out of Louisiana Tech. and he's an interior player. He's about 295 pounds, but he is very much a pass rusher. He's like a Kentavious Street, he's super ripped and 290 and kind of a pass rusher. And he's a free agent, and I think they're going to let him walk. I think he's behind other guys there. I think he's that one gap penetrating interior rusher that they really need. And it's hard to get this guy in the draft because there are guys like this, but man, they're hard to locate. They're hard to find. And they're hard to sometimes they bust, and it's hard to sometimes find the right interior rusher because it's a lot of technique. But this guy, Milton Williams, is ready to play great football. He's got a great body for the game. I think his price tag is going to be expensive, but not crazy. And that's the guy that I would try to get inside. If to me, the one thing that you need is a bigger, more stout, more powerful, more explosive defensive line that's better against the run and the pass. Williams would give them kind of a cheaper version of Hargrave, but a guy who plays the run a little bit better than Hargrave. A similar kind of player, though. Pass rushing interior guys. So those would be my guys: Tommy Tremble, Milton Williams, Tutu Atwell, Rondale Moore, and Mecole Hardman. Some speed at wide receiver. And the other guy that I kind of like, I've always liked him, I don't know if it's a fit, is the Eagles backup running back. They've had such a great year from Saquon.
Gainwell?
Yeah, I really love Kenneth Gainwell. I think he's a very underrated player. He can catch it. He's smart. He's accepted his backup role in Philly this year in a professional manner from all I've heard. I just think Gainwell is the kind of do everything back that might be a nice, because I think they're going to say goodbye to Elijah Mitchell in free agency.
I do too.
I think there's a very good chance they wind up trading JP Mason. Maybe I'm wrong, but I could see them trading JP Mason. I think they'll be in the market for a back. They'll probably draft one, but Gainwell would not be a bad alternative.
Let's talk a little offensive line and free agency. Because again, there's another must upgrade across the line of scrimmage. Got to have it. Do you want to trust that upgrade to an unproven rookie? Pooney, very good start to his year. A little bit of a rookie wall at the end. I'm very excited for year 2 of Dominic Pooney. There's no doubt. I think I can solve maybe your offensive line in one move. Like I can.
You don't have a lot of money, remember?
I know, and this is going to get expensive here.
Who do you want, a tackle or a guard?
Well, I got 2 different options for you.
Okay.
Ronnie Staley. I mean, this is big ticket item here. Ronnie Staley of the Baltimore Ravens, probably best available to his position. He's going to command big bucks. I'd love to see the Niners sign him, put him at right tackle, ask Colton McKivitz to move to left guard, and then ask Drake Nugent to have a massive offseason where you're ready to go and be this team's starting center next year, kid. And if you can do that, you have solved your offensive line with one big contract, and the rest of it kind of falls into place. Little wishful thinking, I get it. So then let's start with what I think is the weakest.
He's the 3rd best rated offensive tackle available this offseason. There's Cam Robinson, Joe Notaboom. Ronnie Stanley, in fact, is probably the best of them because he's also the cheapest. Those guys make 13 and 18, and this guy makes 7.5. So he's looking for a big payday. I don't know that that's, I think that's
okay.
Beyond
okay.
I'm
just throwing out ideas. Just
let me go down the list a little bit. I'll go further down that list. If you're looking at, let's just say, the spot track free agent list, go to the undrafted free agent tackles. Okay, so there's some older guys, right? And there's one guy that makes sense to me, Jedrick Wills, the former first round pick out of Bama for the Cleveland Browns. He's only 25. He's an interesting name to me. Another name way down the list, Tennessee, who played at North Dakota State, Dylan Radunes. He might be a guy that is decent. I'll give you a sleeper that I really like. I like Deontay Smith from Cincinnati, who played at East Carolina. Really like him. You could also re-sign Jalen Moore, who's down this list as well. It's not an awesome list, man.
No,
I'm telling you, I don't think they're going to be able to get it done at tackle in the free agency.
Let me ask, do you think that McKivitz shuffling to guard is even a possibility?
No.
Okay,
No.
then forget that. Then forget my plan. You know, again, just
well, I don't want to crap on that. I mean, he can play guard.
No, you're not going to hurt my feelings. We're just talking football. It's okay.
I like McKivitz. McKivitz's value to me is that he can play guard, tackle, center, and either side. So I think if they could find a way to draft a right tackle that's, regular 6'6", 330 right tackle, and then use McKivitz as their jack of all trades, I think they've upgraded there.
Hey, re-sign Jalen Moore, see if he doesn't do a better job starting at right tackle. Make McKivitz your swing player across your entire offensive line. Re-sign Ben Barch, who I thought came in and played pretty damn well at the end of the year. I'd like to see that guy get more run at guard. How about this? Get the best center in football. You're going to spend all this money on Brock Purdy, protect him. Having pressure right in his lap was a massive problem all year. Get me the best run-blocking center available in football. Drew Altman from the Falcons. He's perfect for the
Dahlman.
Huh?
What'd you call him? Are you talking about Drew Dahlman?
Drew Dahlman, yeah.
Yeah.
Get him from
Stanford. From Stanford. His dad played for the Niners. And that would be a very, very, I like that idea quite a bit. He's only 26. He's a really smart player. But I also think the one thing about center is I kind of feel like they have some internal options. I like Ben Barch. I like Drake Nugent. I may like Colton McKivitz.
Well, here's the thing. They didn't like their internal options because they didn't pull on any of them.
Well, no, they just like Brendel Moore. I mean, they like Brendel Moore, but to me, Brendel left you wanting in a lot of areas. I'll say this: if I was going to make one free agent signing on the offensive line, it would be for, you say, okay, what do you need? Well, okay, you need a right tackle. You have Pooney at right guard. Okay, you need a center. And you have Trent at left tackle. You have Banks at left guard, but Banks is probably moving on. So you may need two guards and a tackle. And you may need the whole thing, right? Because I don't love Jake Brendel. But to me, the one guy, if I was going free agency, that I would sign, because I think he's such a culture player, is Kevin Zeitler, who's played all over this league. Kevin Zeitler was a first-round draft choice in the 2012 draft out of Wisconsin. He's played 12 years in the league, Damon. He's 34. He's playing for Detroit right now.
He's a Lion right now, isn't he? He got traded
right now.
there.
He's playing for Detroit.
Yeah.
But he played for Baltimore. He played for Cincinnati. But what he is just an old school, badass, tough ass brawler, which is probably why Dan Campbell wanted him, right? And this guy this is your tone setting veteran guard that, he's older. He's probably lost a step, but man, this guy's toughness is the tone setting factor. So I want a tough offensive line. I'm tired of this soft offensive line. So give me Zeitler and I'll start him at left guard, or I'll move Pooney to left guard and I'll start him at right guard. But give me Zeitler at guard. That's what I would try to do in free, because he's 34. So I think you could probably get him for a lot less than some of these other guys. He's not like Ronnie Stanley's in his prime. I it's going to take an amazing offer to get him out of Baltimore. But Zeitler, on the other hand, who knows? I mean, he may retire this year if they win the Super Bowl. He's had a lot of injuries and that kind of thing. But this guy he is your old school badass, new world order on your offensive line. I mean, if you put this guy in that room, you've got a tougher, meaner, nastier offensive line room. And I'm all about that.
I think what I want for the Niners more than anything this offseason is just make it smooth. Like, we were promised the smoothest offseason this last offseason and got anything but that. Remember when it was, hey, Brock, he's not hurt. He's not rehabbing. He's coming in. He's going to go through a full training camp with a full complement of all of his players. And this is going to be the key jumping off point that he has not had. What an advantage we finally have now baked into the year. And it all went to shit by their own design, and players holding out, holding in, and the whole thing was just a mess. Make it smooth this year. Make it smooth, please, 49ers. Forget about your team. I don't know if your fans can take much more of, internal, what's wrong? Why does this feel funny? Why is Mike Silver writing about bad vibes again? That's the last thing this franchise needs this offseason. So I hope that they do that for themselves. What do you think of Clay Kubiak, Larry? What do you think of Shanahan basically admitting they're on to me? That's to me more than anything else what just happened by saying, Clay, come on in here. You're going to run Kyle's system. You're not going to do your own thing independent of Kyle as offensive coordinator, obviously. Everything's going to be checked off and approved by Shanahan. But we're going to have you linking plays together because I don't think Kyle is fooling anyone anymore. Shanahan's got to be the most studied coach in this league in the last decade. So I think everyone's just on to him. I think Kubiak is the new eyes, the bucking the trends, the zigging when everyone expects Shanahan to zag. I know that they lost in Arizona. I thought they ran some pretty crisp offense in Arizona with Kubiak calling the plays. I think it's an important moment for Shanahan to admit, I need help. What do you think of the help Clay Kubiak is going to give him?
Well, I mean, I don't think Kyle's given up play calling. I mean, that's what he does. So I don't think he's given it up. I think it makes sense that he should from time to time and not tell people when he does. I think like anybody, it's, it's football is not, there's lots and lots of variables, but a lot of the stuff's very repetitive and it's easy to get a book on a guy. And it's once you've been in the league, as long as Shanahan has as a play caller, everybody's got his trends down.
Yeah, they've been studying him since 2014 when he was calling plays for Johnny Manziel in Cleveland. I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, the advantage in having somebody else is that, this mental, chess game, you don't have as much knowledge of Clay Kubiak's, tendencies. So I think there is something to be said for that. But Shanahan, that's what he does. Is he's the play caller, he's the play sequencer. I think it's totally naive of us to think that they'll ever be any different. He is the play caller. He's going to continue to be the play caller. As far as why is it a good idea to have somebody besides him be the play caller? Well, just because, after a while, you start to see the trends. I mean, think about it this way. If you play cards randomly, if you play 21 blackjack and you play randomly, then if somebody's studying you, they're like, I don't know what his philosophy is. He's hitting on 16, he hits on 17, he's doubling down. It's like, if you're, he's all over the place. But if you have a real defined, strategy, well, he does this. And when the dealer's doing this, he does that. Now we've got a book on how you play. Well, I just kind of think that if you're consistent, it starts to work against you. The self-scouting starts to work against you because you start to build up trends. And then if you're consistent, you stay with your trends. I mean, I'm not even studying his trends. I'm just doing the pre and post game show. And I can tell you several of his trends.
Right.
So if I just off the top of my head know some of his trends, then guys whose job it is to seek out these trends know that like the back of their hand. So all I was saying is that maybe Clay Kubiak, from time to time, give him a game here, give him a game there. Don't tell anybody when you're giving them that game. And just try to, if other teams want to self-scout you, that's fine. They will, of course. Make them self-scout two different guys. Make them have trends that don't really, your trends are not going to stand up if you have different guys making decisions based on different philosophies. So I do think it's time that Shanahan mixes it up a little bit, in every way imaginable, personnel wise, play calling wise, coordinator wise. So it's time to have a real concrete evaluation of where is this organization at? Where am I at? Where are teams at as far as snuffing out our game plans? What are they taking away from us? Is there any common denominator to what teams are trying to take away? And it just, they're going to have an extra 6 weeks this year because they're not in the playoffs to, get a real good handle on the draft class of 2025, get a real good handle on the free agent class, get a real good handle on, what coaching staff do they want. I think they'll get a coordinator that they prefer instead of last year when they were looking in the middle of February and everybody was hired and they're like, we'll just take Sorensen and the continuity will be good for us. Well, you know what? You can argue the continuity is good for you, but you had such a backslide personnel-wise that there was nothing Sorensen could really do. And then he himself was not all that creative. I mean, you heard Shanahan say it at the presser. He's like, we need to be able to adapt when teams adapt to us and take things away. We need to be able to adapt. That's his way of saying, hey, look, we can't stay in a wide 9, we're rushing 4, dropping 7 stance all day if we're not getting home with 4. The Niners didn't even get a sack in 4 of the last 6 games, and they didn't dial up a lot of exotic pressures in those games. So, what the hell is Sorensen good for if he can't dial up pressures? And Shanahan was like, hey, look, there's better options out there. There's guys that, you have to be able to adjust and make those adjustments when teams adjust to you. That's what he was talking about. And we'll see who they get. I hope they get, of an experienced guy that is excited about running whatever system they're going to run. I mean, don't get some guy in there who's running the third best system that he knows because that's your system. Get somebody in there that has the conviction and the belief that they can run the system that you're running.
How do you think that Robert Saleh interview went? He sits down. And he's like, they're like, Bob, you want to come home? I mean, what the fuck are they interviewing? That interview must have lasted 15 minutes, right? I mean, that had to have been a quick one.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, you got to remember this. They're probably these coaches prepare for these interviews. So, and these teams prepare for these interviews. And a lot of it's fact finding. So, I mean, a lot of it's going to be like, he knows them and they know him. Right. And, so all the questions about
yourself when you were in New York,
or just, do you, what's your family situation? Will your family like living out here on the West Coast? It's like, no, they're all from Miami. It's like, they're not going to like it. Or, yeah, no, they're going to like it. My daughter goes to Cal. My son's, lives in Oregon, whatever. So there's that whole, does your family life fit with the job? But I think the more crucial details in the discussion this time is going to be, hey, what do you see with RD? What do you think we need? What do you see as our problem? And it's a little bit more about his analysis of where they're at and what they need and what he wants to do. And then does that jive with their budget, with their view of their roster? That's, I think, more along the lines because they know him. They know his work ethic. He knows Kyle. He knows Kyle's idiosyncrasies. So
it feels like he's got the right of first refusal. I mean, unless he gets a job in Jacksonville, I think he also interviewed with the Raiders. Unless he gets a head coaching job, it's the single best retreat point and springboard to the next coaching cycle that Robert Saleh could be looking for. So
maybe not though. What if they can't? What if they're hell bent on giving Brock a big contract and using their first 4 or 5 picks for an offensive tackle, another wide receiver, and, a tight end. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a second. You need me to come in and turn around this defense. And the first pick I'm going to get to make is in the 4th round. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be a deal breaker. It could not. So you just have to see how they view the whole thing and how the Niners view it. I would personally go heavy on defense in the draft. I told you my free agents would come on offense. I think I'd try to find a free agent quarterback, a free agent tight end, a free agent receiver, maybe a free agent offensive lineman. I think I would try to do more free agency in the draft and try to do, or in the free agency in, the offense and free agency and the defense in the draft.
How they go about spending limited free agent dollars, I think will definitely, tip exactly what they're looking to do in this upcoming draft, and, how they're evaluating these players, and, the recipe that they put together for player evaluation. I don't even know if, Robert Saleh's even consult. Here's the thing, Robert, you get 0 picks. You're the defensive coordinator. You will, you're gonna deal with whatever you're served up. I mean, I just think that the 49ers do want to return to Robert Saleh. Hopefully he wants to return. Let's say he doesn't. Who's the next guy up for the job? They also interviewed the defensive backs coach from the Detroit Lions. Who else did they interview?
Townsend. Yeah, the former Alabama corner, Deshae Townsend. Jeff Ulbrich. There's a lot of talk about Lou Anarumo. We no confirmation on that yet. But Ulbrich, Gus Bradley is another name that's been thrown out as a guy who, the original defensive coordinator of the Legion of Boom.
Somebody said that Bradley and Shanahan have static and that couldn't work out together. Is that true? Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know that, but I'll say this. I mean, Gus is he's verbal and he's antagonistic, so I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I like that in my defensive coordinators.
Yeah,
I don't mind that.
Exactly. And then if you look at some of the numbers too of if you look at some of the numbers of the Jets defense after Saleh left this year, while they still had Ulbrich, Ulbrich took over for Saleh. And when Ulbrich took over for Saleh, their defense kind of backslid. And there's a lot of people that are very kind of concerned about. So I give you an example. I saw this today. Here we go. I'll share the screen on this one so you can see it. Here is a stat that is kind of interesting, or from a TV show. Robert Saleh was fired. Okay, before he was fired, the Jets were first in yards per play. After, they fell to 10th. They were second in yards per pass attempt. They fell to 26 when he left. Second in opponent yards per game. They fell to 15th. Fifth in points per game. They fell to 28th. So this is all under Jeff Ulbrich, these numbers on the right.
Yeah,
so
I think that Robert Saleh was a sacrificial lamb for a owner and a franchise that is so, implicitly proven that they're the biggest group of jerk-offs in football. I mean, really, the New York Jets are a never-ending clown show of bad decisions on top of bad decisions, on top of bad ownership, on top of bad reaction, on top of bad media coverage, on top of bad vibes. I mean, nobody whittles away at a chance of their own success as quickly as bad teams who fire good coaches. And I think that Robert Saleh was a pretty good head coach for the New York Jets, but they just wanted somebody to blame, and Aaron Rodgers had a little insurrection, and it worked. I don't know.
They were good on D. They were good on D. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, he's the head coach. I mean, he's responsible for all of it. People will say that to me when I say, oh, well, the Niners were good on O or whatever in certain ways. And they'll be like, oh, well, Shanahan's responsible for the defense and the special teams too.
Wait,
you're the head coach. You're the head coach of the whole team. But, you always take a more,
Fizlamic says, we aren't too far off from the Jets. Real talk. Oh, no. Look, I understand you're frustrated with the state of the 49ers right now, but don't compare yourself to the New York Jets. Please. That's insane. The Jets are forever fucked. The Niners are not forever fucked.
The Jets have a Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson has, he's very inconsistent, very mercurial. I mean, they thought it was going to work to get Aaron Rodgers on that MetLife surface. I mean, I could have told you that having Rodgers on the league's most unforgiving surface was not going to be a good situation. He came from Green Bay, which has one of the most forgiving surfaces in the entire league. Now he's on some super fast, really difficult to cut MetLife, which eats up knees left and right. Yeah, that, it was just a matter of time. And at this point, I think he's retiring. I don't think Rodgers is coming back. I really don't. I think Rodgers is going to retire. But there will be a lot of veteran options for the 49ers. If they want to have a veteran quarterback, I do think it's essential that they not just get Brock signed, but that they also have somebody there that he can compete with, whether it be a veteran or a young guy, just somebody who's a little bit more substantial than Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs at a cheaper price, which is it's going to be a tough thing to do, right? But that would be my goal. Try to find somebody who's a little bit more competitive with Brock, who's not necessarily, somebody you could win a game with or a series of games. Let's just say this. Next year, I think we would all agree that if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch aren't on any hot seat right now, if they replicate this year, next year, they will be. So if they want to avoid a hot seat situation, I think they have to cover themselves against things that would get them in that hot seat, which would be if Purdy went down and you had nobody at quarterback and you just lost. So to me, I think for Purdy's sake, because I think he's a competitor, but also for their sake, if he goes down, you have to have a quarterback that you can win with.
I tell you, starting quarterback goes down, misses significant chunk of the regular season. There isn't a team in football that isn't in a really bad situation the second that happens. So I don't know how much I would hold that against the Niners or their coaches, but I'll tell you this. If Brock plays 16, 17 games next year and against the last place schedule, you guys miss the playoffs again, I don't think there's a hot seat. I think there's a flight out of town. I think next year is the fork in the road for this regime, that it'll either be their last year because they missed the playoffs, or it'll be the first year of their now reinvented 3-year window to win another Super Bowl again, to get back to the Super Bowl. I think that
I don't think they're going to be, I don't think they're gone next year. If they don't win this year, are they gone next year? I don't think so.
No, I mean, make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs against the last place schedule, and have you seen the teams that are coming in? I mean, my God, they got 10 wins baked into next year.
Somebody would be gone. Somebody would be gone for sure.
Yeah, there would be a massive shakeup if they were going to miss the playoffs against the last place schedule and a re-upped Brock Purdy.
Well, that's how you lose. That's how you miss the playoffs, is you don't have another quarterback. If you decide that you can't afford a veteran quarterback, and all of a sudden you've got just some rando as your number 2, and Brock goes down, you're done. You're done. So I'm saying
you're done anyways. Like, what's the example of your established starting quarterback got hurt, your backup came in, and you know what? I mean, Jeff Hostetler won a Super Bowl,
but not every David. Not every injury that could knock you out of the playoffs knocks you out for the year. I mean,
right.
But you have a guy who's going to miss 8 weeks. If you have an injury, you're going to miss 7 weeks. I need to have a quarterback that I can win. I can't go 0 for 7. But if I'm getting Brock Purdy back, okay. But I mean, my whole point is you can't have next year go up in flames because you lose Brock Purdy for 6 weeks. You have to have a better backup quarterback than what they have now. I don't even think it's only because if he gets hurt. I just think that Brock would play better. I think, everybody plays better if there's somebody right there to take their job.
Right.
And
I got a lot of people they're on the text saying, what about Nick Foles? Nick Foles. See, here's the thing. Any backup quarterback, if you're able to get 5 really good weeks out of a backup quarterback, your backup quarterback has done his job. Your starting quarterback, I think, gets into that. You're missing half the season range. You're in a lot of trouble right there. I don't think a backup quarterback can ever really be asked to navigate, more than a month of choppy water. If you were better than a guy who could play for a month, you'd be a starter somewhere, so
I just think Brock needs that. Brock's a competitor. And this year you had, Josh Dobbs and Brandon Allen. And last year you had Darnold. At least Darnold was a real NFL quarterback. These guys are, Josh Dobbs is 2-12. Brandon Allen's 2-10. Those are not starting NFL quarterbacks. And all I'm saying is get an Andy Dalton, get a Kirk Cousins, get somebody who you could actually win some games with, so that if Brock does go down, your season's not cooked. You can't, especially if the entire regime is tilting on this year, as you're indicating, all the more reason to have a decent backup quarterback. And it's going to be tough to do, because you're going to have to also, get Brock at you're going to have to get Brock at your price. If you're going to have a decent backup quarterback, you're going to have to get Brock at your price. There's no way you're going to be able to pay Brock $55 million and have a decent veteran backup quarterback. You're going to have to get him closer to 40, 45 million if you're going to have that player. Now, if you can get him at 40, 45 million, now you probably can find a $5 million, window to throw some veteran quarterback or some reclamation project quarterback. But I'd be interested in the competition, because I just see in Brock Purdy an insanely competitive guy. And if you want the best out of him, get somebody there like a Mac Jones, like a Zach Wilson, like somebody who could do the job in theory. And I think you'll get more out of Brock. I think it's a major key. And the other major key, I think, is you got to figure out a way to run the ball in the low red zone. So if that means change out Brendel, then change out Brendel. If that means change out Brendel and Banks, then change out Brendel and Banks. If that means you change out Brendel and Banks and you have to go find a big-time fullback or a big-time, power back, then do that. But you have to be able to run the ball in the low red zone, or you have no shot. You're not going to be able to win the Super Bowl passing the ball from the 4 like they did this year.
Yeah. Stop being inside the 5-yard line and getting an empty backfield, for goodness sakes. That's just, I hate that formation. I also hate running out of the shotgun inside the 10-yard line. Like, get under center. Come on.
I don't mind any of those things, actually. I don't mind an empty, and I don't mind a shotgun, and I don't mind, but spread it out and let the quarterback run. These condensed formations on the goal line, when you can't move people, is just death. I mean, there's an absolute death. I mean, you're going to sit there and you're going to line up in these condensed formations, and you can't move anybody off the ball. I mean, they were embarrassing. I didn't even want to ask Shanahan this question, because I knew that it's the kind of question that just makes him kind of
defensive.
Well, defensive, and also it's like the question was this: Kyle, do you this year, were there examples of you coaching around your talent? And he would probably say, well, a good coach will always put his talent in the best position to succeed, blah, blah, blah. But, second and goal from the 4, second and goal from the 4, you passed. Third and goal from the 4, you passed. Is that your philosophy? No, it's not his philosophy. He just knows that he wasn't going to be successful. So
he can't run power because you don't have a power team.
Yeah, it's like, do you stop doing what you should be doing? Or, you know what I mean? Do you keep calling plays that you should call, and then if your players can't do it, then it's on them? Or do you start calling plays that you think they can execute, even though that's not really the play you want to call? You see what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't believe in Brendel and you don't believe in, let's say, Garendo, because he was their late season back, then yeah, I'd be passing on second and goal from the 4 too, because I'm trying to score a touchdown. But in reality, 2nd and goal from the 4 has got to be a fucking run. It's got to be a run. So it's like I wanted to ask him several times, Kyle, did you coach around the weaknesses of your roster? But then there's no one really to point at because he's the buck stops with him anyway. So it's like if you have weaknesses in the roster, that's on him.
Right.
If your offensive line's not good enough, that's on him. If the back's not good enough, it's on him. It's all on him. So it's like one of those weirdo questions where you're asking him to be honest and he's going to be critical of himself. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like one of those things where there's a lot going on in a question like that. You know what I'm saying?
There is. I mean, it's a confrontational question. But sometimes,
it's fair though. It's fair. And
it absolutely is a fair question.
It would be fair if he answered it honestly. If he said, truth be told, we have had some weaknesses to our roster this year. And yeah, I know there's certain things that I want to do that in future years I would try to do, but this year I didn't try to do it because I didn't feel like we had the pieces to do it. But then after I asked that question, Damon, there's somebody who's going to ask a follow-up question. Well, who were some of those players you were coaching around?
Well, I don't want to talk about that. Right.
Yeah, then there's a speculation of, well, who's he referring to there? It's like, so a lot of times coaches don't even want to open that can of worms because they know that that's all that's there.
And the truth is, you are asking a question you already know the answer to. The answer is yes. The answer is, of course, he's coaching around his talent. If this guy had Mike Allstott on his team, goal line would have looked a little different this year. We know that. So, but then
it's also kind of like, hey, Kyle, is that your philosophy that you believe that you should, you get to 2nd and goal from the 4-yard line and you believe you're going to pass twice and kick the field goal? And if you said, is that your philosophy? Be like, no, it's not my philosophy. I just thought that would work, So it's like, you see what I'm saying?
Here's a philosophy everyone can get behind. Go to Sam's. Go to Sam's Chowder House next time you're looking for a gorgeous day in California and something nice to do with the family, a little trip outside the city, a trip from where you are to Half Moon Bay, which is gorgeous. Look at that lobster roll. Look at the paella. Look at the cioppino. There's no reason not to go to Sam's Chowder House. We love them sponsoring Wake Up. Thanks again to Paul and Julie Shankman for supporting us, our little local business. Their big local business is one of the best in all of Northern California. Get to Sam's Chowder House. Larry, you want to do some supers?
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of predictions we need to make and something very special about today, which is related directly to Sam's Chowder House, is something that I need to tell you about at the very end of the show. It's a big day for you, Larry. It's a big day. You don't even know how big of a day for you it is. It's a really big day for you.
That is incredible. Joseph Ernberg says, would the Browns trade Myles Garrett? They are in a bad spot. Wow, that would be unlikely, I would say. But, man, I would love to have him. Fuji Simeon says 2025 NFL UK games are out. It's possible Browns versus the Niners game in London, since that is a Niner road game, and the Browns are guaranteed a home game in London.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you about, Larry. Yeah, Ian Rappaport.
I thought they had determined already who the games were in London, including the teams, both teams. No,
they've determined the teams. I don't think they've selected the games, but by saying
so only one team. They've only determined one team each time.
The Jaguars are going and playing at Wembley. They're the house band at Wembley. The Jaguars always go. The Jets and the Browns will be the other two NFL teams losing a home game to go play in Tottenham Hotspur, that new stadium over there, which, by the way, I would really like to see. Larry, there is a chance.
It's nice.
49ers playing the Browns in Cleveland. That could be a game that the NFL ships across the pond. So
I would love that.
We got to go.
Love to go to London.
We got to go. Yeah. Are you ready to commit to that right now? If the 49ers get a London trip, we're going. Do you want to do that? Let's start saving the money now. You ready to go?
What do you think it would cost?
I think the entire trip comes in under $6,000.
Oh yeah, we could do that. We can definitely do that. I'd prefer it if it was kind of in November as opposed to September,
Right.
But yeah, no, I want to go. I want to go to London. I did the pregame on Talk Sport 2 for the great Will Gavin, who is kind of like basically Bob Agnew and Tony Salvador all rolled into one for Talk Sport and Talk Sport 2, which is kind of like their ESPN radio, if you want to call it that. He's like the boss, but he's also an on-air guy, the great Will Gavin, who's a big Niner fan. So I'd love to go over there and drink some beers with my London 49er friends, of which I have many, Paul Hope and others, Lee and others. And we lots of great Niner fans are fans in London. The Niners have taken over London. They really have. So, yeah, I would absolutely love to see Niners and Browns.
Is there
a
pig in the pickle? They're opening him in London. Maybe we can get an Ike's opening in London. Larry, we can do a
Yes.
Mania and a Krueger meetup all at the same time in London. Fish and chips for everybody. Let's go.
Yeah, seriously, let's do it. I'm down. I'm down for London. All right, let's hit a couple more of these here.
We're going to need more super chats if we're getting to London.
Yeah, Fuji Simeon says 2025 NFL game in Mexico City. Unsure yet if 49ers will be a team to play there. Other games proposed for Spain, Germany, and Brazil. Not likely 49ers play there since it's not their merchandise rights zone. But they could. They could wind up in any of those games. Fuji Simeon says, here you go, Damon. Wake up on the road to 49er road game in London if it happens. Would you take Ike Cutout with you? Showcase the UK pub food and booze.
Here we go. I need I have a big overhead compartment. I can't fit this under the seat in front of me. Can I have it, my seat next to me, please?
Look at that thing. We got this one from Michael Carroll. Let the realistic cynicism of the Dark Lord Damon sink in. The 49ers are doomed to repeat historically underachieving. The 49ers are effed and Kyle's a clown. Wow.
Again,
Michael,
why do you bother being a 49ers fan? It's like loving NASCAR but hating tires.
Crazy
I'm really
Juice.
into auto racing, but I can't stand gasoline.
Crazy Juice, new member. Way to go, Crazy. Thanks for jumping in.
Welcome.
Blood Moon. Garrett Wilson wants out of New York. A pick and Debo for him. #speed. It would have to be a high pick. It would have to be like Debo Samuel in your second round pick, or something like that. Maybe Debo in a third. I don't think it's going to be like Debo in a fifth or anything. It's going to be a high pick, but I love Garrett Wilson and I would do that trade in a heartbeat. Fuji Simeon says long 49ers off season. Glimmer of hope is the 2025 schedule. Cheers to you both and people in the chat. We are all in this together as 49er fans for highs and lows. Well said, Fuji. Yeah, the schedule's cake. I mean, the schedule is, come on. If the Niners can't go to the playoffs next year, shame on them. Jesse Thompson, Niner fan from the East Coast. Larry, you have become my favorite YouTuber to get 49er info from. You're straight down the middle. No hate, no love. Appreciate that, Jesse. And we're trying to cut it down the middle. Damon's
nothing for me, Jesse. Well. I'm not Jesse. No, what am I? Chopped liver? What?
Fuji Simeon says it looks like San Francisco have stopped their pursuit of Pete Alonso.
Did they ever start?
And why would they stop their pursuit of Pete Alonso? Because they're so exciting at first base with who? Lamont Wade? I mean, come on.
Late night Lamont, Larry. Come on, man. Gotta believe.
Jack Jackson says draft Webster from the Colorado Buffaloes. I don't even know who that is.
Mike Webster?
No, it's not Mike Webster. It's not that Webster from that Friday night show with Alex Karras. I used to watch that routinely.
Oh, the adorable Webster. It was Emmanuel Lewis playing Webster, if I think I have that right.
He was a cute little guy. I'll tell you. I watched that show on Friday nights. It's time for Webster. Man, those were innocent days, man. And when you had dinner and you took your dish to the sink and you got your place in front of the TV to watch Webster on a Friday night. Wow. Times have changed.
Times have certainly changed. Oh, we got another super here. Came in.
Got another one here. JP from the 510. Member for 12 months. Draft Hope. Stop getting cute. Draft the best player at the value at the priority positions. Stop looking for sneaky value.
Hey, man, there's been Heisman Trophy. There are Heisman Trophy winners who carve up college and look like they are the capital MAN, and they get to the NFL and they blow. There's nothing promised to any draft pick. There is an element of luck. The single greatest talent evaluator in the history of football, whomever he is, fucked up an awful lot of draft picks too. It's tough. There it is. Is that it?
This is a mock
You got every answer right there?
This is a mock draft. Kev said people are ripping you, Dad, because you print out your mock drafts. That's okay. Rip away. Tear me up. I'll be 55, by the way, 2 days from now. So you guys only have 2 days. 2 days to buy things for me.
Happy birthday, Larry Krueger. Turns 55. Double nickels, baby. On Sunday. On Sunday. Hey, since
double nickel on Sunday.
Since it's your birthday weekend, big fella, you get to make all the picks right here. No points.
We have one more super. One more super. Fuji Simeon says, go SH, declaw, defang, spay, and neuter the Wildcats. Is that tonight? Fuji? SISH at Joe Lakeup's Palace? 3 tall boys for $57.50.
Oh, you wish. A double tall whiskey and Coke at Chase Center is $42.
Oh, what? I'm just talking about 3 tall beers. I paid $57.
A single whiskey and Coke is $21, which is why the double is $42.
That's just ridiculous.
I was at a concert. I'm like, hey, who needs one? And 3 of my friends raised their hands. All right, so I'm the guy going to the bar. I'm getting 4 double tall whiskey and Cokes, and they turn around after I order that. I'm like, yeah, give me 4 double tall whiskey and Cokes, and they were like, that'll be $168. I was like, fuck.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Makes movie popcorn look like a fucking bargain.
Oh, they're just giving it away compared to $168 for 4 cocktails.
All right, for those draft nuts out there, I'm going to give you my latest mock draft. Okay, from last time. I'm just going to read it to you. Straight down the list.
Because it's your
round
birthday,
1, Mason Graham, Michigan defensive tackle. Round 1. Round 2, and I'm not sure. I'll just say pick number. Pick number 43. I traded back. Trey Harris, wide receiver, Ole Miss. Go check him out. He's amazing. Pick 76, Quinshawn Judkins. You'll see him tonight. Running back, Ohio State.
He's good.
He's really good. Ole Miss transfer. Pick number 108, Zy Alexander, cornerback, LSU. Pick number 112, Antoine Powell Ryland, edge rusher, Vatek. Pick number 145, Kobe Bryant, cornerback, Kansas. Pick 168, Jalen Conyers, tight end, Texas Tech. Pick number 175, David Benda, linebacker, Texas. You can catch him tonight. He's really good. Pick number 186, Debo Williams, linebacker, South Carolina.
Hey, if those first 185 picks play out in front of him just like that, that's going to be a lot of value on the board, Larry, at 186. So I like that.
Pick number 202, J.C. Davis, an offensive tackle from Illinois. He's a Bay Area kid who went to McClymonds. And they're thinking he's going to be a day 3 pick. Really good athlete. Remember that name, J.C. Davis. Pick number 204, maybe my favorite player in the entire draft, Nash Hutmacher, who's a nose guard wrestling monster from Nebraska.
Yeah, why are you looking at 204 if he's your favorite, Larry? Take him number 1 overall. What are you doing?
Value, Damon, value. 211, Montrell Johnson, running back, Florida, sleeper. Pick 216, Cody Simon, linebacker, Ohio State. Catch him tonight. Yeah. Pick 226, Caden Prieskorn, tight end, Ole Miss. Pick 230, Miles Hinton, offensive tackle, Michigan. Pick 246, edge rusher, Kari Coleman, Ole Miss. And here are the 2 sleepers of sleepers. Pick 249, Jordan Watkins, wide receiver, Ole Miss.
Terrible pick, Larry. You just screwed up your entire draft at 249.
Pick 254, Taj Brooks, kind of a bowling ball running back from Texas Tech. He's
Yeah.
like 5'7", 230 or something like that.
Absolutely.
Taj Brooks.
We got to check you into Betty Ford because you are addicted to this shit, Larry. You're nuts.
Oh, I know. Also, a couple more supers here. Fuji says, happy early birthday, Larry, but F the Wildcats. Look at that. And then Frisco Shills says, opinion on Jalen Walker. That's the Georgia linebacker, number 11. He is the Butkus Award winner. He is a special athlete. They use him as an edge rusher. He's going to be a stacked linebacker at the NFL level. Think Devin White. He's Devin White all over again. So I really love
more than the first 15, 20 picks for sure, right? So he's there. Yeah. He could be there.
Oh, he's there. He'll be there for them at 11. And if they trade back, they might be able even to get him in the teens. But I love Jalen Walker. A little bit of a projection, but he's 6'2", 245, and maybe the best athlete in college football. I mean, he's just that incredible.
By the way, Dan, Coach Emilio, here's it's your birthday, and he wants to welcome you to Del Boca Vista, Larry. Take the pen.
Nice. Danny, good to talk to you. Fuji Simeon says it's on the 14th, Larry. It's on the 14th. I'm not sure. It's on the 14th is the SISH. All right, Damon, you have one last thing before we bolt for the door.
Oh, I sure do, Larry. And I had no idea that it was your birthday weekend, but boy, does this correspond because this is right up your alley. I don't know how we determine like, hey, today is National Pet a Dog Day or National Cheeseburger Day or National, Banana Split Day. I don't know how we come up with these things.
Right.
But they do. And January 10th, not your birthday, but today, it is National Bittersweet Chocolate Day. So fuck you, milk chocolate, today of all days.
What's bittersweet chocolate?
I'd really...
Does that mean like natural chocolate without sugar or something?
No, I think bittersweet is like those are the chocolate chips you bake with. That's bittersweet chocolate, right?
Okay. Like maybe dark chocolate?
No, that's dark chocolate.
Well, dark chocolate has a bitterness to it sometimes.
It is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the sweetness. So there you go. Cut your energy cost day. I don't who came up with that. It is
my PG&E bill was obnoxious this month.
House Plant Appreciation Day. Okay, you got to appreciate your house plants, everybody. Poetry at Work Day, Larry. You have any poems for us today? Poetry at work. Look at it this way: your mock draft is today's poetry at work. National Save the Eagles Day, not the Philadelphia Eagles, not the band. Can't save them. Few have died.
Nick Sirianni.
It's National Doms at Work Day. Here is why it is your day, Larry. Here is why this should be as big a day for you.
NFL mock draft day?
No, bigger than that. What is the one thing in life that I know you like even more than an NFL mock draft?
Turkey.
No, but you're in the neighborhood. Too. You're in the neighborhood. This is an item to consume.
Pliny's beer.
Even bigger than that for you, Larry. You're more of a smoke guy than you are a drink guy, but this is what you are in terms of a guy. You're not a football guy. You're an guy. You're an Oyster Rockefellers guy. If I ever saw one.
Oh my God, I totally am.
Oyster Rockefeller Day, Larry. It's Oyster Rockefeller Day in
America or just California or Northern California?
It's America's holiday, but I'm giving it to you for your birthday weekend. Happy birthday, but forget it. We'll all turn 55 if we're lucky. Happy Oysters Rockefeller Day to you, Larry.
You know what? Is there a way we can quickly look up exactly what is in Oysters Rockefeller? Because it's awesome.
It's butter. It's breadcrumbs. It's garlic.
Spinach?
There's a little green in there. There's usually a little chopped spinach, I'm guessing.
I gotta look this up.
All right, how to make Oysters Rockefeller here, Larry. What do I need to make Oysters Rockefeller? Here's what you need. Here are your list of ingredients. Let's start by gathering ingredients we need to make.
I have it here as well.
Okay.
So
obviously you need oysters, right? You need
oysters. You gotta have butter.
Yep.
You gotta have butter. You need spinach.
You need spinach,
lemon,
shallots,
kosher salt,
You need a little like Romano or Parmesan cheese to work in with the breadcrumbs if you want to go for a crispy Rockefeller top.
You got to shuck the oysters. You got to dress the oysters.
What you really need, Larry, is one of
bake
those.
The oysters.
You need a broiler. You need a broiler to really put the nice crisp and sizzle on top of the oyster to really give it that restaurant salamander touch where it comes out all bubbly like it does at Sam's Chowder House. But Sam's Chowder House is where I discovered that Larry had a 2-pack a day Oyster Rockefeller problem.
They are so good. So good.
Yeah. So there,
So
Larry,
nice.
hey man, I really mean it. All jokes aside, happy birthday to you, man. Double nickels. That's a big one. Happy birthday to you. I hope you have a great weekend. I don't know if you and the family got any big plans. Go down to Sam's Chowder House on Sunday. Get yourself some Oysters Rockefeller, baby.
Seriously, I might have to hit the Rockefellers. I might have to Rockefeller my ass off. Okay, let's see. Wait a second here.
Oh, Blood Moon. Hold on. Blood Moon says Carson Beck looks like Christopher Walken's lost son.
He does. He does. And he's transferring to Miami, by the way.
Is that official?
He's transferring to, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Carson Beck's transferring to Miami. It is official. We also see some Corey Wiggs. I'm with you, Larry, but it takes two to tango. Trading back options don't always present themselves. Yeah, no, you're totally right. You gotta find somebody who's willing to trade back with you for sure. That's gonna
be easy to find someone who wants to trade up though to 11. 11's juicy. You don't
this year
angle 11.
Yeah, this year there's going to be all kinds of teams. You know, the other thing that could be super intriguing, a lot of people are like, Mason Graham's never going to fall to the Niners. Yeah, but there's like 4 or 5 teams in front of the Niners who are probably going to all go quarterback.
You want as many quarterbacks to go before 11 as humanly possible if you're a Niner fan in this draft.
I mean, you know there's going to be 2. Shador is going and Cam Ward's going. But if a third could get in there, that would be something. How about your picks before we get out of here?
In terms of we got a little wild card weekend, Larry. Let's.
Do you want to go spread or no spread? Because I've got my picks ready to roll.
I got no spread for you. Here's what I like. I like the Chargers and I like the Ravens on Saturday. Chargers are going to win in Houston. The Ravens are going to beat the Steelers. This has got no points attached to it. On Sunday, the Bills will beat the Broncos. The Eagles will beat the Packers. I got the Commanders upsetting the Bucks on Sunday Night Football. And I got the Vikings beating the Rams in a game that has been moved to Arizona because of all of the hellacious landscape that is down in LA right now. God bless everybody down there. My God, what is happening to LA is so scary. But the 14-win Vikings, had to go on the road because they didn't win their division. I'm telling you, they're not happy that they got there, but the Vikings are thrilled this game's being played in Arizona, aren't they?
Yeah.
Not for the reasons. Not for the reasons.
I mean, I don't know if I don't think it matters that much. I think they're the better team. They're going to win. They're going to win. I've exactly the same picks. The only game that I'm at all like, as far as spreads go, I'm taking Chargers given the 3. I feel good about Baltimore. Covering that number.
Who's got the number out there? 9.5.
Well, that's the biggest one. Yeah, Bills are 9. I don't think the one I'm thinking about. This is how I'm thinking about wagering this weekend. Chargers straight minus the 3. 2-team teaser Ravens Bills because I just don't think they're gonna. It's a lock on the tease. It's not a lock on the spread. I like Eagles. I like Eagles over Packers. I definitely like Commanders over Buccaneers. That's the one that I don't feel that I probably wouldn't wager on just because the Buccaneers at home.
Right. That's a layoff too, but I like the Commanders in that game. I do.
And then I like the Vikings. I think the Vikings, win 24-10 or something like that, 24-13, something like that. So
what's the biggest walk in the park game? What's the game that's never in doubt?
Well, I mean,
Broncos, Bills just put it on them hard.
I mean, Broncos, you would think Bo Nix in Buffalo against the Bills team that's 8-0 at home, that's totally rested and ready, should probably smoke Bo Nix. This should probably be an education for Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So I would imagine Buffalo Buffalo and Baltimore are definitely going to win. But the question is, are they going to win big? And I think one of them wins big and the other wins close, and I'm just not sure which one. Steelers have historically have played Baltimore tough, but guess what? Steelers look awful, and the Ravens are cooking right now. And the Ravens are at home, and they'll be fired up. And Lamar has been listening to you're 2-4 in the playoffs. You're 2-4 in the playoffs. He's gonna play well. So
I did a little segment on yesterday's show about what is the preferred if the NFL could just dial up whatever Super Bowl they could get. What Super Bowl would they want the most? To what Super Bowl would they want the least? Number one with the bullet is Chiefs playing anybody. The Chiefs with an opportunity to three-peat is the easiest thing to sell in all of football in a Super Bowl for global attention. That would be number one. Then I'm calling it the biggest loser Super Bowl. Give me Lions and Bills. Like, could you imagine waking up on Super Bowl Sunday knowing that one of these two long-suffering franchises is finally going to win a Super Bowl today? That would be amazing. Yeah. After that, I think it's Lamar Jackson, Larry. Lamar Jackson finally having the playoff success that allows him to join the conversation of best of his generation. I saw some stats on Lamar that are just unbelievable. Like, that guy isn't appreciated enough in real time because everybody holds the haven't done it in the playoffs over him. In the regular season, there is nothing left for that man to accomplish. So if he were to accomplish it in the postseason, that would just cement his, first ballot Hall of Fame status. Harbaugh and the Chargers making a run. The NFL loves to sell crazy, and nobody gives you more football crazy than Jim Harbaugh. After that, obviously, like Eagles, Packers, massive fan bases. The Steelers, massive fan base, but they're not very sexy. I don't think they're going to do it. Commanders would be, we remember them. The Redskins used to be a big deal. Now they're the Commanders, and they're a big deal again. That would be something. Texans, Broncos, nobody gives a shit. Texans, Bucks, and Broncos are the closest you can have to local stories in a league where every team is a national team.
What's the least likely? To me, Rams, Chargers, an all LA Super Bowl in New Orleans. That one I don't think we're going to see. But I will say, I like Bills, Eagles. I like Bills, Eagles this year. I think the Eagles are going to do just enough. And I think the Bills are going to do just enough, and then the Bills are going to do just enough in the Super Bowl.
By the way, I won't even take credit for the question. I saw it asked on Twitter, and I thought it was it's a good question. I don't have the answer to it. What if there was a scenario where the Rams at SoFi Stadium were hosting the NFC title game, and the Chargers were also in a scenario where they were hosting the AFC title game? How would they turn that stadium around to have both those games on one day?
Is that possible?
It would have to be, wouldn't it? Or they would have to.
I thought the Rams are the seventh. Aren't the Rams the lowest seed?
No. Whether or not it happens this playoffs, just in the future. Any scenario where the Rams are hosting the NFC title game, the Chargers are hosting the AFC title game. What would SoFi Stadium be on Championship Sunday? Would you have to break up Championship Sunday into Saturday, Sunday? How would that happen?
Yeah, maybe Sunday, Monday, something like that.
I mean, I guess we could have asked this question about the Jets and the Giants, but don't need to worry about that because the Jets are never
the Rams are the 4 seed because they won the division.
Right.
All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm streaming in 10 minutes from now with Chase Senior. I'm back with you. I'm on this afternoon with Derek Papa and Adam Copeland. And then tonight at 6:00, I'm back with you on KNBR for Niners Nightly. Dave Lombardi stopping by tonight at 6:30. So we're looking forward to that. And then, of course, Buckeyes and Longhorns later tonight as well. I'll take the Buckeyes in that one.
Warriors, Pacers tonight. We got a Sharks game tonight against Utah Hockey Club. So I might even flip that on at one point because these Warriors, man, I don't know. So I'm going to start watching a little Macklin Celebrini era, see what happens over there. Yeah, Larry,
The Warriors are done. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to somebody with the Warriors yesterday, and this guy was like, everybody wants us to make this trade and that trade and rekindle this and rekindle that. He's like, we're done. We've won our championships. We're not winning. I'm like, yes, I know. It's obvious.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I would say this. I've got Kyle Posey of Niners Nation joining me at 11 a.m. today. So we're going to kind of talk about how he sees the offseason unfolding and a few other things. And again, Larry, have a great birthday on Sunday, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you, man.
Thanks to everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Hit like and subscribe on your way out if you haven't already. Thanks for all the supers. Thanks for supporting our sponsor, Sam's. And happy birthday, Larry. Happy birthday to you. I'm so happy for you. I really am.
I don't celebrate birthdays, and when I do, I don't wish anybody happy birthday. I don't like it when other people wish me happy birthday. I usually just say, hey, go lose yourself an ACL.